back to Tactics Talk with Guido. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate y'all's support as always. Hey, let's talk about close games. Let's talk about something that I haven't touched on for a long time. When you have a close game, there should be a question you ask yourself at the end of that game. After you feel good if you win it, or if you feel bad at because you lost it. Ask yourself, why was this game close? Why was the game close? What did I do wrong? What did my team do wrong that stopped us from winning this several tanks ago, or quite a few tanks ago? So that's what we're going to talk about. Close games. Why was it close? I am here with Captain Obvious in his KV4. He's in an all Tier 8 battle on Live Oaks. They've spawned in the northeast, and he is headed west into the town, which is a pretty typical heavy spot to brawl. So as we go in here, we will watch what Captain Obvious does. And we will talk about the things that potentially contributed to this being a close game. Things that contributed to this being a close game instead of it being a relatively easy win. Now, there are 15 players on this team, and I'm only looking at one's replay. So debriefing to Captain Obvious is all I can do right here. Look out, Oho, it's ramming me. And this IS-3A has lost his mind. And he's going to give the team, Captain Obvious's team, a fairly easy win. Holy cow, that Oho just snapped that guy. So the IS-3 has lost his mind. And as I said, there are 15 guys on this, and I'm only debriefing Captain Obvious's. But as we look at our gameplay as individuals, that's all we can control. So we can talk about what other guys on the team should have been done, and rightly so, especially if they ask us to take a look at their replay, or they're a player that we're playing with in a platoon. We can mention the things that they did wrong or places they could have done better. But in the case of us as individuals, then we have to look at our gameplay. So let's take a look at it in the context of Captain Obvious's gameplay. So that was okay. They dealt with the IS-3A. And now we've got quite the scrum going on in town. And we've got Captain Obvious sitting back here with an Oho. An IS-3 is pushed forward. He has platooned in a dynamic platoon with a T-34 and an IS-3. And his team, the T-34, 2 IS-3s, 3 IS-3s actually, and the 4202 are quite aggressive up in there, but they are working these guys over. So let's see what Captain Obvious does. Remember that this game is a hit point reduction game, and advantages in hit point reduction gained early often can turn into a snowball effect or a cascading effect, as it does in combat in general. And remember that now that Captain Obvious takes up this position. So we are looking at the Scorpion. We are a little bit tentative. Okay, there's a 8.8. We're going to go look at this guy. Nope, he's behind a ridge right there. And meanwhile, his team is fighting and taking damage. And Captain Obvious's gun has been silent for probably a minute and a half, 2 minutes. His gun has been silent for a minute and a half, 2 minutes. The enemy is well lit, and their positions are well known. There is a tank up here in front of him. There was a guard last seen. There's an IS-3 buddy. He's got multiple buddies down here taking on multiple tanks. And we'll see what Captain Obvious is doing. And he's moving forward. He's looking here. He's looking there. Gun hasn't fired. His team is taking damage. They're losing hit points. And now we've finally moved up to take on the guard. Now, the guard is not a bad idea to go get, but he's known about that guy being there for quite a long time. As a matter of fact, he's known about all those guys being there for a long time, and he didn't move up into where the majority of his guns were in order to help them take these guys down. So two choices, other than sit back initially there, was to get in here with his buddies and start working on these tanks. KV-4 is excellent in that role as an armored tank. Pretty good reload on a decent pen gun. Or push in and take out the guard, which is holding something of a flanking spot against his team. Either one done earlier was the good idea. But now we've got the gun going, so that's better than nothing. He's losing guys, though, in town. Another nice shot on the guard. We'll hammer him for that. And the guard pulls back. Now, the guard is unlikely to push back in. If I was the guard, I would not be willing to do that. And what we do then is we back up and we look at this 8.8. If you notice where the 8.8 is on the map, he is way over here, well out of position to do much of anything. So worrying about him at this point is really not the right idea. It's valid to swing around and look for shots like that. It's not valid to do it while the scrum is happening right in front of you and you could be helping your team. Now the guard gets really silly here. He does actually come back around the corner, and that's fine. That's an opportunity gained. He ends up tracking him, aims in. The guard has a long reload. He hammers him, and down goes the guard with the IS-3. And it was at this point that I'm thinking, well, surely Captain Obvious now, because it should be obvious, see what I did there, is going to push on in, start working this KV-4, this OHO, clean these guys up, and then go get this guy hanging in the corner. So we're going to go in, I'm thinking, yep, here we go, and we're crossing, and we are not really paying attention to what's going on. He looks at it, his camera work says I'm looking at the KV-4, but his direction says to me, and what happens is he's going after this guy. Well, who cares about this guy right now? You have multiple guns that can work on one that's now out in the open right here. In fact, I can highlight him. Stop here and help these guys take him down. Once you take him down, and ideally preserve the 4202, which may be hard based on his hit points, but possible, then you move on to guys that are hiding in the corner. The trick here is to gobble up the guys that you can get together with your buddies and then move on together. This little flanking maneuver around to this other KV-4 is not really helping out the team, because this is where the team needs help immediately. In fact, you can shoot right now. You don't have to drive around and start worrying about that guy. But what we end up doing is we come around and we work on this KV-4, and this is a pretty good shot right here. We end up getting him, so good on you. And down he goes from the OHO. So there's an argument to be made that, hey, I did team up with my team, but I definitely would have stopped in that road and worked on that KV-4. So now the KV-4 is dead. The 8.8 goes down, and we've come up to a position where we are 5v5. If I look at the map, I know that 3 of them are over there at my cap, and I only have 1 TD at the cap. Danger. Immediate danger at Will Robinson. 1 of them is here in town. That's 4 of their tanks, so 1 is unaccounted for. We've got to deal with this KV-4, so let's swing around and take him out. We're coming in. I've got plenty of friends with me looking for that kill shot. I might get a kill shot. Nope, looks like the OHO is going to whack him, and outstanding. We've cleaned up the town. This is something I've talked about multiple times. Once you win your flank, and your other flank has failed such that your cap is in danger, go back. Go back. If you're sub 50% or hovering around the 50% range, my advice to you is go back every single time. Every single time. And you will raise your win rate up to 5%, depending on how the rest of your play is going. I absolutely guarantee it. If you're a much better player than that, there are other things to think about where you may not go back every single time, but it's still, the needle is pointing very close to every single time. So Captain Obvious is going to come in here. I'm assuming he's worried potentially about the other guy that's unknown, but guess what? What do we now know about the 3 that are alive? They are all over by the cap. So there is absolutely no reason whatsoever to head on over this way towards their cap. You have got to get back. In fact, there goes your STA-1. Things are getting worse. He does start to wander over that way, and we're starting to cut across. So let's just talk a little bit before we get to the end game here about the initial supposition that I came up with, which is, why was it so close? Why was the game so close? Well, part of it right now, one of the reasons Captain Obvious's team has a few less hit points than they could have had is because of his relatively tentative fighting in the town. So not getting up, not getting his gun in the game early on, probably about a minute and a half, 2 minutes where he hadn't fired, and then not really supporting the team how he should have been, looking to be more of a hanging back sniper and working around the edges. Now, a lot of people are very comfortable with that kind of style. But what you've got to understand is that if you are not actively looking for a shot or engaging a target and shooting your gun, and the other team is, that is costing probably your team some hit points. And because of the snowball and cascade effect, it has repercussions later on in the battle. And we are now down to a 4v3. So remember that whole idea of getting your gun in the game, because it's going to become very much more important, even more than it already has. There goes the charioteer. So now we're down to a 3v3. Got a defender that was last seen there. There's the STA-1. So we may have a shot on him. We're going to move forward a little bit. Now realize we're going to get spotted if we get too much closer. Looking for a shot, looking for a shot. Oh, there he goes. All right, so we'll take a shot maybe on the defender. We got spotted, so now they know we're coming. Not a bad shot, and it's time to move on. You do need to get closer. That STA-1 is hold down, and he's got shots on you. He's firing heat. You're getting kind of lucky that he's bouncing. Fortunately, he didn't get you flush on any flat armor right there. Decent job of giving him some angle to work at, and I do like that you put the building between where he probably is. Shoot right here. Just take it. Take it and go. No reason to stop. You need to close the distance right now. Sitting back and sniping based on what's going on isn't going to help you. Also, look at the positioning of your teammates. You've got an Oho in the edge of the city over there. He can't really advance because that's all open ground, and he'll get torn up by the Revloy, whatever it is, way over there. And of course, the defender and the STA-1 are working hold down right there. You've got a defender on your left, which is a powerful asset, and he keeps them from kind of coming around there as well. But he also has to deal with the Rev shooting across the field. The only guy who can get up there and change the angles of this fight is you. You have got to get up here, go low slightly, come up around here, and get up around behind these guys. If they do turn on you, then the defender will come down and help, and you can clean these guys up. What you want to do is create an overmatch on them. Right now, they are overmatching you because they've got two guys in the same spot and a sniper in the back who's sweeping that field and keeping you from being any kind of organized force. So move forward like you're doing, and this just takes way too long. Messing around with that, messing around with that. Defender's right there. We'll take a shot. And I will add in here that if ever there was a time for gold rounds, this is it. You carry 4. You've got a highly armored, well-armored defender tank to deal with. This is absolutely the time. Some people save them for the critical phase of battle, and this, my friend, is the critical phase of battle. If you wanted to save them and take snaps as you move forward and then press 2 when you got close, that would be fine. But unfortunately, you're sitting back. Now look at your defender. He's actually seen you moving up, and he's assuming you're coming up to help him. And he's now pushed in to engage, which is exposing him to the Rev shooting from across the way. Now they can't jump all over him because they're worried about the Oho, but you're not creating any kind of crossfire. Fortunately, you're whacking these guys a couple times, and we're just sort of sitting here, and guys are losing hit points. And if you had just pressed W, WWW, or RRR, R, like a pirate, and moved forward, you would already be around this corner. In fact, you may have been around that corner so soon that you would have preserved your Oho. Defender finally gets the Defender v Defender, and now we've got the STA-1 who's coming in there while your defender is wounded. He's trying to back up. Now you're spotted, and he goes down, so that's good. Now it's 2v1. So again, revisit the beginning of the tactics talk where we said, why is it a close fight? Look how close this is. What were the things that you did? You particularly, not the other 14 guys on the team, granted and noted they had a part to play in this, but you can only control you. So what were the things you did, Captain Obvious, that got your team to this position? And I think we've talked about it. Being tentative in town, not getting your gun into the game, and then for this last end game play, not getting on your horse, getting around this corner, and helping to preserve potentially a hit or two off the defender, and maybe even keeping the Oho alive. Another thing pushing guys like that and threatening them will do for you is it will make the enemy nervous, and they may make a mistake. They may have come out of there and forced something to happen and given your team a bit of an advantage. So the Dread Pirate Roberts hammers you with heat, so now you know he's firing heat at you. At least I like this part where you decide, you know what, I've got to close on this guy. And man, I would not have stopped right there. Just keep on trucking. Oh. Dang it, and now we've lost another hit. And see, this is a good example of being a slightly passive player that's going to hurt you. You may have taken that hit anyway by moving, but you would be another couple tank lengths closer to that guy. And he would think a lot more about popping out if you were much closer. So he wisely decides not to go after you, and now you're pushing up into him. And this is probably a lot closer than you wanted it to be. Outstanding. There's a hit. This is a small tactical piece of advice. I would fix my turret here immediately, because every little bit counts. He may get to a spot where you can't quite get your turret on him fast enough, and he gets the shot first, simply because you didn't fix the turret. Turrets, guns, and motors. That was a huge missed opportunity right there. So what I saw when I saw him moving is he was running. He was running this way back around this building, and you had a shot on him in the rear as he was crossing. Had you just scooted forward, you had a shot on him right there, and you let that get away. That's the spot from when he went by right there. It's 3-second delay. So definitely fix that turret. So a couple missed opportunities, not getting your gun in the game. This game is close, largely because of choices you made. Now, the other way to look at it is the glass half full. The game is close because of good choices you made in some cases. So that's absolutely true. But what we're looking to do here is debrief this to the perfect result, or the best execution we can get. He's unlikely to drive around that corner right there. I know what you're doing there, waiting for him, but this is a decent player, and he's unlikely to do that. I do appreciate that you are pushing into this guy, so that is not a bad plan. He makes a big mistake right here. He's just looking that way. For whatever reason, decided you were going to come around from there, and you catch him sideways to you. So, dude, nice job overall, but I think we've answered the question of why is the game close, in particular with this game. But for all of you out there who are listening to this, next time you have a close game, take a look at it. I bet there's some things you could have done in there that would have made it not quite as close. I'll spit it out in a moment. There are choices you made, there are ways that you played, maneuvers that you pulled off, that had you done them a little bit better, a little bit sooner, it wouldn't have been as close a game. But nice job, man. Overall, I know I was getting down on you for a lot of those things, but you end up pulling this thing out. 2,400 damage, 1,200 block, 1,500 spotting. Nice job there, Captain Obvious. Thanks for sending in the replay, asking for the analysis. For everybody else out there, as always, I do appreciate it. If you got a game you want me to analyze, you got a great game you want me to feature, or a game of the week caliber kind of game, send it in. And as always, we will see ya.